Hi guys, welcome to another episode of the Real Football Talk. I have David and Adil with me today. We'll be discussing Luton's game against QPR. Disappointing end to the season, to be honest, if I'm saying the truth. But I mean, what a season he has been in terms of Luton and how much they've progressed from last year. David, what was your take on the game and how we ended up? I mean, losing 3-1 at the end. So
Yeah, well, I think we were a bit unfortunate. We had a lot more chances than they did, a lot more shots. In the first half, we had a lot more possession, and I thought we were pretty unlucky overall to go in at only 1-1 in the first half. But what you do have to say about QPR is they've got some really skillful players, and it's like a multitude of them. And when they turn it on, they can turn it on. And the chap Johansson, I think Charlie Austin's a real handful. But I didn't think they looked any better than us at all, except perhaps their ability to put the ball in the net.
I mean, I think they were more clinical on those areas, and they are
Yeah.
I think a step above in those sense, really, in the forwarding lines. To be honest, Adi, what was your take? I mean, why did Luton struggle at the beginning when they started it? Because it seemed like QPR dominating, and then we kind of slowly got into the game.
Yeah, I think it's actually to do with the pressing. At the beginning, I think Luton tried to start fast, but what happened was because of QPR 3 at the back system, it made it easy to play around any pressing. So that's why they readjusted and went to dropping off, which was the right thing to do, and that's what kind of gave them a foothold in the game again. But it was too easy to get the ball into chase, so that was partly the problem. And
he's a good player, isn't he?
I mean, like I said, QPR got some really quality players. I mean, Lyndon Dykes, I rate very highly, even though he wasn't that effective today. They didn't really utilize his skill. I've seen him quite a few times this season. Seen him play for Scotland as well, and he's a very good player. I think he's a very good championship striker. Of his chairs, very good. Charlie Austin's, experience. Willock, I actually thought Willock was the problem. Was the problem for QPR in the first half, but the injury actually ended up changing the game, and he ended up being the most influential player in the second half. We really struggled.
How highly regarded is Johansson? Because I know nothing about their players, but it struck me that in the first half everything went through him.
Yeah, he's an experienced player. I mean, he's played at international level, so he's an experienced player. He knows how to play the game. He's obviously on loan. I'm not sure which club he's from, but I think he's come on loan from a Premiership club. So, yeah. I mean, that's the key thing is they've got key personnel in the right areas that you can see the quality when they get on the ball. Johansson looked good every time he got on the ball. Willock looked good. It's hard to get the ball off him. Chair looked good. So they've got, down the spine of the team, down that central area.
That's what I was going to say. They got experience throughout the whole block, really, through the center of the pitch, from top to bottom. And I think that's
what's interesting about him, though. Last season we lost 3-2, and we were 3-0 down and being absolutely mullered. And then we came back, and the whole of the second half we were piling the pressure on them. And today they took an early lead. I thought, oh dear, we're in trouble here, because they were passing it around at will. They were actually passing their way through our defence on occasions, and it looked very worrying. And then, as you say, we adapted the tactics and became the better side for much of the game, even if they have perhaps more quality overall. But you wonder about QPR's mentality, because in both games they let slip what looked to me to be the ability to win at a canter at one point.
Yeah, I think they're not like Luton. They're not flexible in their approach or in their tactical, especially off the ball. I mean, even this game, the injury to Dykes really actually saved them. I thought if it wasn't for that, I was quite confident Luton were gonna go away in the second half and win, but that actually addressed the imbalance in their team, because bringing on field actually gave them more stability, and the rotations between Chair, Willock, and Charlie Austin got Luton confused, got the back line and Ria confused. So actually, the injury to Dykes actually was probably the most influential thing for QPR's perspective. That saved them really, because after that, Luton really struggled to. I thought Luton struggled in the second half, but it was because they couldn't actually control Chair and Willock, and they kept dovetailing and changing positions, and that was confusing the Ria a lot. So it's really down to the injury that QPR managed to get an advantage. If it wasn't for that, I don't think.
But even then, surely, I mean,
well.
Nathan Jones would have seen that and could have rectified. I mean, we've seen him do it in previous games where he's tactically maneuvered and changed the way we play to counteract the opposition.
He did it in the first half, but in the second half, but you can't do much when players are rotating and they're so comfortable rotating. And you saw Chair going from left wing to the number 10 to the right. Willock was doing the same. So them two are just rotating everywhere. Even at times, Charlie Austin was going out to the left wing. So what that was doing is that was confusing Bradley and Ria, because they like to press, they like to go tight in on a player. And that's what happened for that second goal, is they ended up going into no man's land, searching for the ball, and they forgot their position. They left their position, and then what happened is there's a big gap for Chair to play Johansson in. And it's literally the only time Johansson pushed up. But in the first half, he wasn't able to do that because he had Willock next to him. And Willock had no discipline. He was playing all over the place in midfield. He wasn't actually staying in midfield. But as soon as Fields came onto the pitch and he's staying stick defensive, that gave Johansson a license to push up slightly and break. So, yeah, I mean, fortunate in the sense that I don't think that change would have happened. I don't think Mark Warburton would have made that change if it wasn't for an injury. But it actually made them play better, and they ended up having the fluidity to, kind of dominate the second half, unfortunately.
No, a lot of their players are on loan, aren't they? A lot of their better players are on loan. Charlie Austin is, and Johansson is, and who's the Dutch-sounding player, De Viles, is it? He's on.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see what happens.
Is Chris Willock on loan, or have they signed him?
I think they signed him. I think Chris Willock.
So they've got a lot of players. Even I mean, I do think QPR have done well, because they've got rid of a lot of the high earners that were at the club. They've done very similar to Luton. They've really transformed their squad.
I mean, it's their best finish since they've been relegated from the Premier League. So
yeah, but they've had a high turnover of getting players out and bringing young, talented players in and building them up. So they're very similar to Luton now. And obviously, a few years ago, they had the money and they were spending money on Adel Taarabt and superstars, and they got promoted like that. But since the parachute payments have stopped, they've gone back to picking out good talent. I mean, their scouting is just as good as Luton's. I mean, they've picked some excellent young players. Lyndon Dykes from, I think they're going from Kilmarnock or someone from Scotland, but I think he's a very, very good striker. And I think anyone who watches the Euros will be surprised by his quality when he plays for Scotland. I think the Scotland setup plays into his style better than the QPR setup. But yeah, I mean, they're very similar teams really in terms of the way they're trying to go about building their team to challenge for the championship.
We've reached the end of the season. Who do you think Luton? I mean, do you have any idea who Luton might be looking at, or are looking at, or perhaps should be looking at? Who do you think that we might be hoping to pick up?
I think that with Luton, the good thing with them is they're very good at keeping their transfer plans quiet, and I think that's part of the reason why they managed to get good players on good prices and without having to pay big agent fees. So it's hard to hear any rumors of who Luton Town are going for. But personally, I think definitely the defensive mid position is an area that needs strengthening. I think Luton Town definitely need a second kind of set back, because we saw what happened when Bradley got injured. And funny enough, Pearson has looked really good since Bradley's come back. And I found Bradley to be making more mistakes and Pearson looking more solid. But when Bradley was out, Pearson looked quite suspect.
I think Pearson needs Bradley to give him the sort of strength.
It's also that leadership from Bradley, I think, that helps Pearson out. I think, you know, that experience, that guy, because I mean, Bradley's been there with us for a while now, so he knows. Even Pearson and them two playing together, they understand each other. I think that's what helps.
I mean, I thought Bradley should have done better for the first goal today, to say the truth. Once you get there, you got to get the blocking. He kind of went past the ball and kind of let.
It was a poor. It was an accidental touch from Charlie Austin. It's not expected, so that I think that's why he probably went a bit further than expected, and the ball came across.
No, but
if you look at the way he touched it,
but you still in it. You leave the keeper side to the keeper, and you block the other side. He just he overran and he overstretched for the block and completely left the other side of the goal. Now, if he just sticking to his side and blocking his side, it would have been a shot straight at Sluga, which you'd expect him to save. So, yeah, definitely he got undone by the poor touch of Charlie Austin, but still, it's a mistake. You know, it's a mistake that even if he slid in, he would have won the ball or blocked it either way. So I think, we're picking out, we're nitpicking really bad. But, you know, that's the difference. And I mean, that's the difference. Charlie Austin got a goal that, you know, Luton Town wouldn't have got, because he's just a fox in the box, really.
Well, you can see that in the second half, because we had situation where we're in the box, but we're just kind of like dilly-dallying, and just like by the chance we've done that and taken an extra touch, the chance is gone.
Yeah, I mean, first half we had numerous chances, clear cut, and we really should have done more with them. I mean, Munker had 2 great chances.
Yeah.
Who else? I mean, those numerous chances.
Half time, the shot statistic was 14-3 in our favour. You know, which is probably about as high as we've done in most games over 90 minutes. We were making lots of half chances and actual chances, but nevertheless, you can see that the ability to unlock a defence through precise passing isn't quite there with us yet, and it is with QPR.
What today's game showed was the difference in the clinicalness of both teams. I mean, QPR really didn't actually create much.
No.
When you compare the match and how many clear-cut opportunities Luton had, QPR never actually created much. But what they did do, it was very clinical, and it ended up with a clear-cut chance. I mean, the 2 goals were the only 2 clear-cut chances they created. Everything else was just boxes in the box, ball into the box, or shots from out wide. Not real, you know, opening up Luton Town. But Luton, well, on the fast break, what I found was that's when they really struggled to make the right decisions, and those are the margins. It's really fine margins, but it's decision making that is costing. Because there's quite a few times. One time, I think Mpanzu could have played someone in. He goes for the back post, overhits it. You know, quite a few times the overloads were there. Munker, really frustrating. He just holds onto the ball too long. He dribbles for too long. And the thing is, when you've got an overlap, you don't need to commit the play. You just need to play the ball in. And, you know...
Munker is a luxury player, I think, because you don't get a great deal of end result from him. And, you know, he does lack the pace to really unlock a defence. And Pelly was disappointing today as well, I thought. He was pretty decent.
Maybe we missed Jordan Clark a bit. That's what I think.
Yeah,
that directness from Jordan Clark, I think that's what was missing. Because you know, Clark would just turn in, put that ball right in the D for us to finish, and maybe that was the difference.
He's a much better player.
I mean, he's got end quality and decision making is a lot better. But I felt that was the difference today. Really was. that, especially on the pace, because we were excellent on the counter attack in that first half.
Yeah.
And when we were attacking at pace, it's like we struggled to pick the right passes.
Yes.
It's like we're attacking too fast, and that's what I noticed with Luton watching them more recently is when they are playing 2-3 touch football, they are very comfortable. Soon as they have to go to one touch, the decision making goes all over the place, and they always pick out the wrong pass, or the wrong decision, or the hardest. That's the other thing. They go for the hardest pass all the time.
But do you think that's down to? Do you think that's down to maybe the players is that they haven't got the quality or the ability to do those types of play where one touch or making that right decision? That's the quality that's lacking within them.
Yes,
because this is why they're creating a lot of half chances and not clear-cut chances like the QPR team did or other teams do higher up in the championship table. Really,
I think it's partly also because we dominate games. Because Luton are always dominating possession or dominating game or competing really well, what happens is we don't rely on playing counter-attacks. And even though we are quite effective with it, especially using cornic pace, it's not a tactic that Luton rely on. So then suddenly when it's counter-attacking, fast-paced football, the decision-making ain't there because they're not used to it. They're not used to that style. They're really used to doing 2-3 touch football and opening teams up to outnumbering them in their attack. But it's combination play. Suddenly, even though they look really good on the counter attack,
I'm going to have to move because my son is about to play the piano. So we're going to have a piano accompaniment. I'm sorry about this.
No worries, David.
Forgive me.
I mean, I think it's a good chance to maybe show it on the share screen if you can, Hassan.
Yeah, sure, perfect.
Right.
So yeah, I just to explain it a bit more clearly. So part of the problem in the first half was this problem was we're trying to press, and Willock was playing everywhere, so he wasn't really staying in midfield, and so Johansson was able to pick it up. But what happened was whenever anyone went to press him, he had an easy pass because Monco was worried about Kakai and Wallace was more concerned about. So what happened was there's always a pass out to Dickey or Barbe, and then straight away the ball's into Chair, and now it's easy to play around us. Or if Ria goes in tight into Chair, by the time Mpanzi goes to close down, then suddenly it's into Dykes straight down that. So that's why it's quite easy in the first 10 minutes to play around Luton Town.
Do you think it's also because maybe this is a formation that Luton Town haven't really come across during the season? Maybe that's what kind of threw them off.
No, really, I think it's very, because it wasn't that different, because even when they played the Diamond, the midfield are pushing on. They're always pushing on. So I didn't think it really changed. And the reason why we created the chances because we played the three. I mean, how many times was Monka in on this side? So I think it actually made us more effective. But as soon as we went and dropped in, suddenly Chair couldn't get on the ball. And that's when we actually dominated the game and kept counter-attacking. And what happened, because Wallace was playing high up and Kakai was playing high up, suddenly a lot of the times we had this situation where Monk was free, Dewsbury Hall was pushing on. And the biggest thing in the game was what happened was how high up Mpanzi and Dewsbury Hall started to play. So what happened was that caused the problem because Willock is not a central midfielder, but they played him there. So he's moving around all over the place. Chair is obviously a number 10. And what happened now, Johansson couldn't pick up both of them. So a lot of the times it ended up being if Johansson went to Dewsbury Hall, it'd come back to Ria, suddenly Mpanzi's free, and we got a 4-on-3 situation. And then if Johansson picks up Mpanzi, then Dewsbury Hall ends up being free. So that's how we dominate the first half. And obviously the thing that changed the whole game was Dykes getting injured, because what happened was then suddenly they actually had two defensive midfielders on the pitch. So there was always someone there to pick up So that's why the second half, the formation wasn't working anymore. This
really
formation wasn't working because suddenly Johansson was picking up Dewsbury Hall, Field was picking up Mpanzu, and yeah, so basically, Chair, Willock, and Austin were just rotating positions, and that was confusing Bradley and Ria, because at times we saw Chair going out left, Willock going out right, Austin in the middle. They kept moving around, and that fluidity was confusing Ria because he didn't know who to pick up, and that's what happened for the goal. I mean, he got lost pushing up a ball in midfield, left Chair, and Bradley got lost picking up Austin somewhere else, and then Johansson just went straight through the gap to score.
Credit, that was a brilliant turn from Chair, because I mean he kind of took it on the back leg and swiveled. I mean he was too quick.
Yeah, I mean he's a quality player.
Back. So that was, I mean, it was quality play from him.
But yeah, the thing is, he's from the academy, so you have to rate that. He's come up through the QPR system.
But they are littered with good players, aren't they? And I mean, I don't know how much money is behind QPR, but one wonders whether or not. I mean, what sort of wages are they on QPR?
I'm not sure, but they've been cost cutting, major cost cutting,
but still a lot more than Luton, though.
Yeah, and I think we can never forget that. I don't know what they'd be playing someone like Johansson or Charlie Austin, but I'm sure these aren't small salaries they're on.
Yeah, and the thing is, obviously, they have the financial backing from the owner, so they can pay these loan fees, higher loan fees to get these players
and it's a massive advantage. It's a massive advantage to have.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, it's disappointing. It's disappointing. I think to counteract, Nathan Jones did go to a kind of 4-2-3-1. But by then, once QPR got the goal, you could see they're playing with confidence and with the freedom, and it's really hard to wrestle back control of the game.
Yeah.
I mean, let's look into maybe next season, what it might be for us next season in terms of, obviously we had a good season, even though the finish wasn't great. We still ended up finishing, I think we're 12th on the league now.
Yeah,
which is still brilliant for Luton considering where we were last year. In terms of pushing on to next season, I mean, what do we need to do? Do we need to go out in the market, spend a bit more, or are we going to do it through loans in terms of to get into those promotion places? Because I know Nathan Jones came out and he said, yeah, we're going to push it for next year.
I mean, if you look at the performances in the last, since January, February, we've competed with everyone, and I was really impressed with the Middlesbrough game because Luton have struggled against teams that play kind of direct and physical, and then it looks like that's something they've now, become accustomed to, and they can now tackle those type of physical teams, because I thought Cardiff done a number on them,
Cardiff,
because of the physicality and the direct
and Millwall, Cardiff,
and Millwall. So looking at the way we dealt with the kind of long ball tactics of Middlesbrough actually gave me a lot of confidence that Luton Town can play against all types of teams now, not just the good footballing teams. And the difference is basically what QPR have. If they can spend that bit extra on getting a Lyndon Dykes or Charlie Austin, I think that's the difference between a playoff run, a real promotional push, because Luton have proven it that they can definitely compete with every team in this division. They can outplay them.
Do you know who's on the market or likely to be on the market who might be available for a loan? Because we've discussed previously that a club like Leicester was prepared to let a player as talented as Dewsbury Hall come to Luton, partially because I think you mentioned before that the Leicester selectors are impressed with Nathan Jones and the way that we play. So are there going to be other players who you're aware of who we might be looking to get, who might be in budget?
Not aware of any players, but I do think Luton Town will get a lot more clubs willing to loan out players. Because Brendan Rodgers came out this week to say that Dewsbury Hall will be part of the squad next year.
Right.
And I think that's partly because they're pretty certain they'll make Europe. If not Champions League, it'll be Europa Cup. And they'll need, I mean, Dewsbury Hall will definitely play in the Europa Cup. So there's more. They're gonna need Dewsbury Hall next year now. So Brendan Rodgers has said he's definitely going to be a part of the plans now, and that's a real positive for Luton Town that they've managed to help a player get into game time. So I think other clubs will look at that, and the fact that Luton Town are very tactical in the way they play. I mean, it's not like a championship team how tactical they are. So I think Premiership managers will prefer picking, allowing their players come to Luton because they know
that's really
the players they're gonna play a good brand of football. So technically they're going to improve, but more importantly, they're gonna become tactically aware players because that's how Luton Town system is. It's very tactical. It's quite. So I think I'm hoping if the budget's there, Luton Town will attract better loan players, and if we can just get that clinical one or two players to make the difference.
Yeah,
I really believe Luton Town can go for.
I think a lot will change until I think the Premier League season finishing and the other team or the Premier League teams will review their squads and everything. I think after that we'll have a better picture of who might be available in terms of the players from the Premier League team that we can loan. So I think that's what needs to happen, and probably potentially looking at the European Championship coming up. Obviously, after that, if there's any injuries or anything, that could play a part in the Premier League teams keeping some players or not. So there's a lot of factors that when you.
I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of good players that are still at clubs. If you look at the under 23 Premier League, there's a lot of quality players that probably are better served playing at a club than playing at under 23 level.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's a question mark around whether there's real quality players out there. These Premiership squads, I mean, they've got so much done to them for no reason. They're better off loaning them out. So I think I'm hoping if Luton have a real positive transfer market, they can really push on, and you can see the belief, the way they came back after conceding. And that was, they conceded the goal at a time when they just started to dominate the game, and they conceded, and then the way you can see Luton Town has a belief system about them. I think they believe they can get a playoff push. I think the players believe it, and they just need one or two. But there's
a real unity there, isn't it, Adi? I think that's what's helping more because
they've got tremendous teams. They never give up.
Yeah, and they believe in each other. I mean, that's what you need, really.
Yeah, I think they're very fit as well, aren't they? Because I've noticed an awful lot of games we've come back towards the end of the game or in the second half. And when you're playing a pressing game and you're going right up until the 90th minute, it suggests you're a very fit side. So that reflects well.
Definitely, and I mean, I think Luton Town showed it even against Chelsea. I mean, they have real good fitness. They can compete. So I think it's really exciting because you can tell what Nathan Jones has done is he's got a real excellent base to work off. Good foundation in the players. They haven't got any real bad apples in the squad. Everyone's hardworking. Everyone puts a shift in. I just felt today, and Riyad looked out of depth a bit today.
Well,
and it might be because he's constantly injured.
Yeah, he does have a lot of injuries that he picks up.
Yeah.
But
the other interesting. Sorry.
He looked a bit exposed for me today. That's why I feel if they can get someone like Johansson, a bit more experienced defensive midfielder, a backup to the centre backs, and then a couple of quality finishers up top. I think Luton Town will definitely be.
Well, I thought that, as I said earlier on, that Johansson was in a way the exemplification of the difference between the sides. I mean, he can pass really well, and he breaks up play really well. Whereas Glenn Ray can pass as long as he's facing in the direction that he wants to play the ball, but he can't do a sideways ball or a backwards ball because he doesn't have that sort of vision. So to have, I thought that to have somebody like Johansson would be transformatory for us. It'd be like having a sort of defensive midfield equivalent of Dewsbury Hall, and would make a massive. The other thing that struck me, by the way, I think is interesting, the effect of lockdown has been to deny the big clubs their gate money. Now, in the Championship, gate money is much more relevant than it is in the Premiership. I just wonder whether that will amplify the financial problems that quite a lot of those clubs that are running out of parachute payments are going to face.
But I think the deal, the bailout that they got from the Premier League is that whatever they would have got from Great Receipt, the Premier League will in terms of a loan give that to the Championship clubs. So I think now it's not a problem. Obviously, it's a problem for those clubs that have high wages and everything because...
Well, that's most of them, of course, compared with us. As I think relatively, we're advantaged by lockdown because our gate receipts compared with them and our low wage base compared with the massive wage base of the Stoke Cities of this world might leave us in a relatively better position.
Yeah. And I think this summer there's going to be a lot of these type of loan or a lot of movement of players or swapping players, a lot of things like that. It's going teams are going to have to be more creative because again, like I said, the effect of less money because of gate receipt will make clubs work a bit more smarter, hopefully. So I think there'll be a lot more loans in the Championship this year rather than transfers.
That's what I was going to say. Do you think, getting too many players on loan for Luton, would that help us in terms of keeping that squad happy?
Yeah, I think Nathan Jones is good at selecting players. I think whoever they get in will buy into the ethos and the philosophy at the club, and the environment. So I don't think Luton would jeopardize the team spirit by picking up bad players or players that will kind of not fit in. So even if they're higher quality, they'll be the type like Johansson, like Charlie Austin, who work hard, who don't carry that ego.
Charlie Austin because I saw Mick Harford speaking to him towards the end. They're having a right old. I don't know what's there, but there might be something there,
Yeah, but I think like you said,
he's got no ego at all, has he? Works. And
the thing is, the amount Luton's changed the position of the players. I mean, he's changing positions multiple times. If he had an ego, he would get fed up by it. And I think the way Luton Town work, it just wouldn't work for a player who thinks they're the finished article because Nathan Jones' system is so tactical. You have to do different things during the game because he's switching it around so often. And I think a player of ego would not be willing to do that. Would not be willing to constantly change their position and rotate and do different things. So, yeah, I mean,
that was the problem for Nathan at Stoke last year. That he inherited this squad of highly paid, theoretically good players who just didn't listen to his instructions. Because that seems to be what happened, doesn't it?
Yeah, but I think also that Nathan Jones might have gone in a bit too my way or the highway.
Right.
And you can't do that with experience. You got to earn their trust. With Luton, he earned the trust to have that power, have that say, have that status amongst the players. But just because you got success with Luton doesn't mean you could go into a club like Stoke where they got Premier League. So, at the time they had Premier League players. Suddenly they're gonna listen to you because you had success with Luton Town. They don't care about that. You have to earn their respect. You have to, and then you can go on like, yeah, follow my instruction, work hard. And he really struggled to change the culture. They done a lot, and the biggest thing was Nathan Jones had a lot of support from the chairman, from the Stokes family, you know, to try and turn it around. But ultimately, it was too big a job. By then, there's just too, you know, the mistakes he made kind of, you know, the squad never really let go of it.
Yeah.
A bit too far. Anyways, I mean, positive season to look forward to next season, really, guys. And thank you both for coming on today. I mean, we're running out of time.
No, thank you.
Unfortunately, we're gonna have
sorry
to,
for having to move.
but thank you both for coming on, and yeah, really positive future for Luton to look forward to. So thank you.
Thanks.